is the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Nigeria. Honorable Femi holds a Bachelor of Law, LLB, with honors from the University of Lagos, and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1984. He also earned his Juris Doctor from the Atlanta's John Marshall Law School, Georgia, in the US, and passed the Georgian bar exam in 2001. He was first elected to the Nigerian National Assembly in 2003 to represent Surulere 1 constituency of Lagos State. In the course of his close to 2 decades career in the Parliament, the Right Honorable Baja Biamila has held key leadership positions with the House of Representatives. Thus, he was elected the Minority Leader in 2007 and re-elected in 2011. He was the House Leader between 2015 and 2019. The Right Honorable Baja Biamila was elected Speaker of the House of Representatives in 2019. Distinguished delegates, it is now my distinguished honor and a privilege to invite the Right Honorable Baja Biamila to come forward so that he can invite the mover and the seconder of this afternoon's topic. Your Excellency, you're most welcome. A round of applause as he comes forward.
Well, good afternoon, fellow speakers and presiding officers of the Commonwealth. It's good to see you all here today, and let me pay special thanks to our host, the Speaker of Rwanda, who has been so gracious since this conference started. So far, we've had a great time in Rwanda, and I believe that it's for each day that we're here, it portends an even better day than the day before. And I want to thank you all for being in Nigeria, where we recently held the CPA Africa Region Conference. And I hope that we did take a few takeaways from that conference. Well, let me just say very quickly, I don't know how you came about this topic or how this topic came about, but it's something. It's a topic that is close and dear to us all as parliamentarians and as presiding officers, and that is the thematic topic: retooling parliaments for effective and efficient oversight. I'm sure you will all agree with me that perhaps the most important, which many people do not realize, a function of the legislative arm of government is in terms of balancing power to oversight. It's so important in matters of lawmaking, laws that we have passed, and in terms of appropriation and following the money. The personnel, the committees, public accounts, the ombudsman, and many other committees, special committees set up by Parliament to oversight the executive. We all talk about separation of powers, but perhaps the crux of it all, or the most important part of it all, is the oversight function. So that's why today's topic is one I believe that we are all very, very familiar with, and we are all eager to share experiences from various parliaments and how we are going about our oversight functions, what the difficulties are, relationship between those who we oversight and ourselves, and how we can improve and reshape, as the topic talks about, retool and reshape those functions. So on that note, it gives me great pleasure to invite As has been said, the mover of the motion, which will be Rwanda, and the seconder will be Cameroon. The mover of the motion from Rwanda is Honorable Rubagumya Furaha Emma. Honorable Rubagumya Furaha Emma is the chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Political Affairs and Gender, chairperson of CPA EXCO Rwanda branch. Before joining the Parliament in 2018, she worked in different capacities in education sector, including heading institutions such as the Student Financing Agency and Teacher Service Commission Task Force. She is educated by professional. She is an educationist by profession, got her BA education from University of Dar es Salaam and her postgraduate studies from University of Leicester and Pennsylvania State University. I now invite to move the motion, and I believe she has a time limit of 12 minutes, if she can use all of that. I now invite Honorable Rubagumya Furaha Emma to please come forward to move the motion. The motion for the retooling of parliaments for effective and efficient oversight. Perhaps I'll use the opportunity to introduce the mover, the seconder of the motion, and that is Honorable Lawson Tabot Bakia from Cameroon. Honorable Bakia is a graduate from the Higher Teacher Training Institute of Cameroon. He has a professional diploma in economic management. He joined politics in 1990 as a member of the ruling party CPDM, Cameroon People's Democratic Movement. Today, he is the section president of the CPDM in Kumbo. He was elected member of parliament in 2020 during the last parliamentary election, and is currently member of the Bureau of the National Assembly of Cameroon. He is the president Parliamentary Network in charge of cocoa, coffee, and other agricultural products, and a member of the Social and Cultural Committee of the National Assembly. And he's presently the coordinator of Commonwealth activities in the National Assembly of Cameroon. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable colleagues, please kindly welcome Honorable Lawson Tabot back here to the high table. Maguya, you have 12 minutes.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, Rwanda, and the chairperson of this conference, Right Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives of Nigeria, Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Right Honorable Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, Parliament of Rwanda, who is the chairperson of this conference this year, I'm greatly honored and humbled to be here as a mover of this topic, retooling parliaments for effective and efficient oversight. I wish to begin by defining this catchword, retooling. According to Cambridge English Dictionary, retool is to organize something in a new or a different way in order to improve. What a great topic to deliberate on at such an opportune time when there are so many changes in all aspects of life that require governments to move fast, utilize resources efficiently, embrace accountable governance and democracy values and principles as they strive to achieve common global agenda without forgetting regional and individual country goals. In line with the above definition, CSPOC chose this topic cognizant of the fact that parliaments in member countries exercise oversight, but it is high time that they do it differently to improve the oversight practices and results to enhance accountability for socio-economic development of their countries. In our context, this theme resonates well with the statement made by the President of the Republic of Rwanda at the swearing-in ceremony of the 4th Legislature of the Chamber of Deputies on 19th September 2018. The President echoed, "We expect you to hold government accountable for doing their job of serving citizens and delivering development." In the aftermath of the genocide against Tutsi in 1994, the governance system of post-genocide Rwanda is built on the three following strategic choices: unit, accountability, and thinking big. We chose to think big politically, socially, and economically. To achieve the above, all branches of the government are required to do their part effectively and efficiently. In that regard, the Constitution of the Republic of Rwanda, mainly in its articles from 126 to 131, stipulate the tools, mechanisms, and modalities of exercising oversight by the Parliament, and details are outlined in the Organic Law 03/2005, determining the methods of Parliament, the method the Parliament uses to obtain information and exercise oversight of government actions. The Parliament of Rwanda has been exercising oversight according to the Constitution and respective organic law mentioned above. However, the need to retool parliamentary oversight becomes vivid as we progress. Allow me to share a little bit about our near past and present parliamentary retool process to strengthen its oversight role. In 2010, a parliamentary Standing Committee on Public Accounting, commonly known as PAC, was established with a view to conduct analysis of the report of the Auditor General of State's finances with respect to the use of national budget and patrimony, and the preparation of draft recommendation to the Plenary Assembly, to follow up on the implementation of the resolution, to consider, study, and submit reports on general accounts of institutions which use national budget and patrimony, to prepare reports on the use of national budget and perform other related duties. The Office of Auditor General conducts audits of state finances every year and submits its report to the Parliament in a plenary sitting of both chambers. After that, the Speaker sends it to the Public Account Committee for scrutiny. In the analysis process of the Auditor General report, PAC makes an in-depth consultation with the Auditor General who conducted the audit for further insights. It also writes to institutions that have not obtained clean audit reports. It prepares for public hearing, which public hearing is done in public to make sure that all Rwandans follow and get to understand what is being done in terms of expenditure of public funds. They summon chief budget managers who are accounting officers, board chairpersons, and council chairpersons, accompanied by senior technical staff in positions of public finances. They invite representatives from National Public Prosecution Authority, Ministry of Finance, Public Procurement Authority, Ministry of Justice, and its affiliated organs. They organize and conduct field visits to collect additional information on the ground. Field visits organized by PAC are intended to assess the state of major projects that the Auditor General report said they are stalled or poorly executed. A full report with the proposal of resolutions is elaborated and submitted to the plenary for approval before it is submitted to the executive for implementation of resolutions with deadline. Each resolution adopted has a deadline for implementation. The Prime Minister submits to Parliament the reports on the implementation of recommendations. The Prime Minister the Parliament may further its oversight function through commissioning performance audits or forming committees of inquiry to carry out in-depth investigation on specific issue. As a result of collaboration with the different stakeholders, there has been a remarkable performance in public finance management, where institutions which got clean audit reports since the establishment of PAC in 2010 have increased from 9% to 56% to date. The coordination of anti-corruption institution has been strengthened, which resulted in successful prosecution and recovery of public funds. Honorable Speaker, honorable speakers and presiding officers, honorable members, strengthening the oversight function of parliamentary rely on country's choice and its political will to put in place functional institutions of governance and appropriate legal framework. As per Article 139 of Constitution, commissions and specialized organs entrusted with the responsibility to help in resolving important issues facing the country were established, and this include Office of the Ombudsman, National Human Rights Commission, Rwanda Governance Board, Gender Monitoring Office, Rwanda National Public Service Commission, Office of the Auditor General. These institutions serve as arms of Parliament, and their annual reports are assessed by respective parliamentary standing committees, which propose recommendations to be adopted by the Plenary Assembly. Accordingly, their reports are great sources of information for parliamentary oversight. Through its oversight responsibility, the Parliament of Rwanda, in addition to contributing to improve the financial and patrimony management, it has also been able to identify gaps in some laws and amended or enacted new ones with a view to enhance accountability. To cite a few, law number 54, 2018 on fighting against corruption, where the crime of corruption was reviewed to remove the ambiguity under the previous law. Embezzlement, bribery, and the illicit enrichment are all corruption according to the new law on the fight against corruption in Rwanda. In this law, cases of corruption were made imprescriptible and not subject to being taken away by prescription nor by lapse of time. Another law is the law number 55, 2021, governing declaration of assets for high-ranking leaders, senior officials, officers, public servants involved in public finance and state property and their duties was enacted. Another law is law number 62 of 2018, governing public procurement, that require public procuring entities to use e-procurement system through the e-procurement portal. This was done in an effort to fight corruption, improve transparency and efficiency, and minimize potential collusion among bidders. In the Parliament of Rwanda, retooling Parliament for effective and efficient oversight is embedded in our working culture, and it is a continuous process. We recently finalized an assessment on the organic law of 2005, determining the methods of the Parliament uses to obtain information and exercise oversight of government actions, and adopted its amendment in order to address existing loopholes that have long been a barrier to achieving full implementation. It is expected that the new law shall provide for enhanced modalities for parliamentary oversight. Among others, it is envisaged that this law will provide for modalities for preventive oversight and presentation of topical issues in plenary sittings and many more. Right honorable speakers and presiding officers, right honorable members, let me conclude by pointing out an inherent contradiction in parliamentary oversight work. Oversight is intended to strengthen trust in our institutions. At the same time, the practice of oversight will often uncover wrongdoing within these institutions. I suspect that all of us can recall a situation in which public attention to misconduct in government or parliamentary institution has weakened confidence. But such situations must strengthen our resolve for robust processes to ensure that while trust may falter for those holding office now, the public trust in institutions will remain strong and grow. Similarly, is the fact that parliamentary oversight is a fundamental political process. Even if oversight is embedded in laws, the political will to drive the process forward remains a key requirement for effective implementation. Finding the political will for holding governments to account can be hard to find in some situations. It is my sincere hope and wish that we shall continue to strive to secure enabling environment to effectively and efficiently hold our governments accountable to deliver for citizens' expectations in order to achieve sustainable development. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Rwanda, Honorable Emma, for your insights in contribution and for moving the motion. I think we're all very clear on some of the things that she had talked about, retooling, and she went straight into the dictionary definition of what retooling was, to remind us that it's all about reorganization and that to do oversight efficiently, and we have to reorganize. She did let us know that oversight is actually detailed in the Rwandan constitution, unlike probably many other countries, including Nigeria. So it's detailed in their constitution, but still needs some retooling. Honorable Emma talked about the Public Accounts Committee, Complaints Committee, and others. But insisted that for you to have effective oversight, there has to be the will and determination. Several laws, according to her, have been amended so far by the Rwandan Parliament, including declaration of assets, e-procurement, and a new law, not even an amendment, for the parliamentarian to obtain information more easily. Honorable Emma rounded up by what she called a contradiction between oversight and perhaps the role of politics, which I'm sure when we throw this open, we'll be able to talk more about that. Let me now very quickly turn to my left and call on Honorable Lawson Bakia from Cameroon to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers and the accompanying delegations, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, I have a singular honor to address this August Assembly on the very important topic, Retooling Parliaments for effective and efficient oversight. There is no gainsaying that apart from legislating, the other traditional and cardinal mission of Parliament is to exercise oversight over the executive arm of government. The oversight function is intended to ensure checks and balances with regards to government policies. As the body representing the people, Parliament is called upon to see to it that the administration of public policy reflects and meets the people's aspiration. Parliament is also called upon to ensure that agreed policy is properly implemented and delivered to target citizens. This is the role of parliamentary oversight. Oversight of government action is one of the cardinal pillars of a genuine democracy and the rule of law. The Constitution, the law relating to the financial regime of the state and other public entities, as well as standing orders of the National Assembly of Cameroon, serve as a legal basis to this regard. This oversight function is exercised at the National Assembly of Cameroon through verbal and written questions, debates on bills in the general committees, the Committee on Budget and Finance, Petition, and Parliamentary Commissions of Inquiry. To foster effective and efficient oversight, the National Assembly of Cameroon has validated a 5-year strategic plan with the intention to regularly question the head of government and ministers during sitting devoted to question time, control government actions of public expenditure, rigorously analyze the contribution of public expenditure to the improvement of the living conditions of the people and the economic and social benefits of expenditure. To achieve the above, the National Assembly intends to improve on the information provided to its members on government choices, reinforces budgetary control, and develop its ability to investigate. The Cameroon Parliament recently got real budgetary control over following the enactment into law number 2007/06 of 26 December 2007 relating to the financial regime of the state. Indeed, with the advent of the rapporteurs of the Finance and Budgetary Committee, Parliament is now empowered to carry out documentary and on-the-spot control of budget action. This is not to say that our Parliament has attained perfection in the area of oversight, for there is the constant search for total separation of powers for effective and efficient oversight. Mr. Chair, Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the key functions of parliamentary oversight can be described as follows. To our context, to detect and prevent abuse, arbitrary behavior, or illegal and unconstitutional conduct on the part of government and public agencies. At the core of this function is the protection of rights and liberties of our citizens. To hold the government to account in respect of how taxpayers' money is used. It detects waste within the machinery of government and public agencies. Thus, it can improve the efficiency, economy, and effectiveness of government's operation. To ensure the policies announced by the government and authorized by Parliament are actually delivered, realized. This function includes monitoring the achievement goals set by legislations and the government's own program. To improve the transparency of government operations and enhance public trust in government, which is itself a condition of effective policy delivery. The quest for continuous improvement in the parliamentary functions of oversight is embedded in the vein of every member of Parliament. Hence, the need to ask following questions in order to assess effective and efficient oversight. Has Parliament formulated any strategic objectives regarding the strengthening of its oversight rules? Are there any planning documents that include oversight activities at the level of Parliament or its committees? If yes, does Parliament regularly report on their implementation? In the last 5 years, has Parliament amended the legislative oversight framework or introduced any innovations in practice aimed at increasing its oversight performances? Does Parliament have mechanisms to evaluate its oversight capacity and monitor its oversight performance? Does Parliament have a well-established and functional mechanism to enable stakeholders, both inside and outside Parliament, to provide a constructive contribution to parliamentary oversight performance? To what extent does Parliament prioritize its oversight role? To what extent is the public aware of Parliament's oversight? To what extent is the public aware of Parliament's oversight role and its possible benefits to the public it defends? To this need, we ensure that formal powers to oversee governments are clearly established in laws and parliamentary rules. In conclusion, the powers and mandates of parliamentarians for effective and efficient oversight are derived from the Constitution, while the mechanism for exercising them are usually defined by other legislative sources, such as parliamentary rules of procedure. The scope of oversight authority largely depends on the national political system, which significantly influence the political and extend parliamentary oversight. It must be noted that there can be no democratic system of government without transparency and accountability. The primary responsibility in this field falls squarely on the shoulders of Parliament. Through its core oversight function, Parliament holds the government to account on behalf of the people, ensuring that government policy and actions are effective, efficient, and commensurate with the needs of the public. Parliamentary oversight is also crucial in checking excesses on the part of our governments. Therefore, we must press until our parliaments become fully equipped to perform their constitutional obligation of effective and efficient oversight, and therefore meet the expectations of their people. Before I end this presentation, Right Honorable Speakers and Presiding Officers, Members of Parliament, I would like to announce that my country, Cameroon, will be hosting the next AFCON Total in the month of January. I invite you all to come to Cameroon and enjoy the fanfare of a peace-loving people and a sport nation like us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Lawson Bakia from Cameroon. It's always an opportunity when we're gathered to invite us to and sell our countries, and we will be, as many of us will be there in January as we can. Thank you for the secondment, Honorable Lawson Bakia. We'll delve straight into the intention of oversight and what's behind oversight. You know, we hear about oversight. What exactly propels it? What exactly is the reason deter for the legislative arm to have those roles and that function and the powers given to it for oversight? And he told us clearly what the reasons were: checks and balances on the executive arm of government. Honorable Lawson made mention of their 5-year strategic plan with the intention of questioning members of the cabinet, ministers, I think what they call the question time, and analysis of public expenditure, which is very interesting. I think they have the same things almost in some other countries, Britain and the rest of them. He also intimated us of the 2007 law, which was designed to carry out spot control of budget action, but also admits that the Parliament needs to do a lot more work in this regard. He poses many questions, some comfortable, some very obvious, such as whether or not there are documents that guide oversight in Parliament, whether or not there is a mechanism in Parliament to evaluate the success or the non-success of the oversight mandate. He asked questions as to whether or not, to what extent the public was aware of the extent of oversight and the benefits accruing therefrom. Honorable Lawson also talked about or told us that the oversight is also embedded in the Constitution of Cameroon, even though the modalities are found in extant laws. So thank you very much for this very insightful delivery. And I think at this point, you know, we'll just throw open the the debate for whoever has any contribution to make, and I hope we'll be able to delve into areas of which I know is agitating many of us, our minds. What are the drawbacks? What are the challenges? Do we meet resistance from who we seek to oversight? Resistance from the executive, or do we get cooperation from the executive in our various parliaments? What exactly is the relationship between the relationship between oversight itself and the independence of Parliament? Can you really effectively oversight without being independent? Or must you be an independent arm of government as you're supposed to be before you can effectively oversight the other arm of government and give full effect to what we know, the twin doctrine of separation of powers and checks and balances? And by independence, we're talking about constitutional independence, we're talking about financial independence. These are all issues that are out there, which we hope that the takeaway from this session will be perhaps a uniform or some general ideas as to how we can more effectively in our various parliaments do what we're constitutionally obliged to do, and that is to oversight other arms of government. So I'll throw it open. If we have any, yes, sir. Please just the name, introduction, your name and who you are, and then we'll go straight into it.
Honorable Chairperson, I'm Daisaba George Ruholo, a member of Parliament from Tanzania. Honorable Chairperson, I wanted to share experience from Tanzania. As you are aware that citizens, they need service. They need access to water all the time. They need access to good roads. They need electricity. And as you are aware, in many countries, it is the executive that is in charge of providing services to the citizens. And at the same time, it is the executive that is collecting tax from the same people. So here comes a need for balancing power. And in Tanzania, the Parliament of Tanzania is vested with the powers to do oversight on public finance. Honorable Chairpersons, in Tanzania, we have two standing committees that are overseeing public funds. And here we have one that is responsible for local government, and we have another one that is responsible for central government. And both the two standing committees have similar roles, but in different thematic areas and the scope. So in Tanzania, the Controller and the Auditor General prepares audited report on a yearly basis. The report is presented into the Parliament, and the two committees goes deeper to discuss the report and comes with the issues, and they identify risk areas, and the report is written by each committee, and recommendations given to the government for the executive to go and implement those recommendations. So that is the experience in Tanzania. And to make sure that the two standing committees have full information, we have passed some legislations in the country where the procurement system is electronic, so that the process is transparent and there is fair competition. At the same time, tax collections is done electronically. This is the experience in Tanzania. But now, Honorable Chairperson, I was asking myself, a situation when recommendations from the Parliament are not fully implemented by the executive. This has not happened to Tanzania so far, but let me end by asking these questions. At least I get some experience from other countries where recommendations from the Parliament were not fully implemented by the executive, and what did this situation, how this situation was managed. Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much.
It's very interesting that Tanzania brought up that poser, because that's what I have written down here. When you were talking about your recommendations, I was going to ask that are these recommendations mandatory, a must, or are they advisory only? I was just going to ask that question, and that's exactly what you came up with, and you haven't had that expressed in Tanzania, but I'm sure a lot of other countries. And those are the challenges we're talking about. You make recommendations, and sometimes your recommendations are not fully implemented, which invariably makes, in some cases, the Parliament, much as I find it difficult to say this, a toothless bulldog. So what I think we should be doing here, because that's very critical, is, and that's why I talk about the independence of the Parliament, and how do we make your recommendations have more bite, more teeth? And that's why the areas we think we should look at. Is it by amending laws, or how do we go about it? I find that a lot of countries have the wherewithal and the capacity to make their recommendations count, but again, because of politics, as you know, has been referred to by the mover of the motion, sometimes we're reluctant to bring down the hammer. So yeah, thank you very much for the contribution. I'm sure many will get answers from that poser, from any other contributor. So anyone else? Uganda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, the Right Honorable Speaker. In retooling Parliaments to do the oversight role effectively, we are looking at how we do our reviews, our monitoring and supervision of government agencies. How we do it right now, specifically in Uganda, it's mostly what we discuss on the floor of Parliament or during plenary, what we do during the budget reviews, what we do during our field visits to check on government projects. I believe what we are looking at right now as CPA or as a team that is here is how best can we improve on what we are already doing. And the best way to me in my thinking as an individual, before I get to the country representation, I believe we need to embrace ICT systems. For as long as we move from paperwork and we move to information technology-based systems, then I believe that our oversight roles will be well done. Because if we emphasize e-procurement like the mover of the motion was raising, I believe it's one way of managing all the inconsistencies on the implementation side before issues are raised. If everything is internet-based, then as a member of Parliament, I will get the information on time. I don't have to wait for the Auditor General to get to the field, and then at the end of the day, he brings the reports on the floor of Parliament for us to review. But everything, if it's online, it's an online-based system, then I believe, as members of Parliament, if we are integrated in the system here, then we are able to know as and when all government projects are being done, we're able to inspect what is being done, we're able to examine our documents in an informed way. So my thinking is that we should embrace technology. That's one way of retooling our parliaments. Number two, I believe we need to look at systems that can do audit recommendations, follow up on audit recommendations. In most cases, you will find that the Auditor General's reports will come to the floor of Parliament, we discuss them. The auditors, the best that the auditor does is to make a recommendation. Project A was done like this was achieved, this wasn't achieved, these were the failures, and it stops there. We discuss it, we try to check what government did right and what it never did right, and we never get to know how it ends. So my recommendation again is that we have well laid out plans on how to deal with audit recommendations. When they bring a project, then we need to know where they failed, how have they done. Let's give them legislations that will give us answers in the shortest time possible. If the Auditor General has recommended review of the project costing and all that, or designs, we need an answer in the shortest time possible. As Parliament, possibly the best we can do is having a system of how this can be done. We also need to look at, because most of the oversight roles as members of Parliament is done at the committee level, at least in Uganda. Like the PAC, Public Accounts Committee, the Honorable Mover mentioned. But to me, the best way to do this is at the time of allocating members of Parliament to different committees. We need to emphasize qualifications of members of Parliament relating to the committees they are going to be on. If we are saying we are selecting a committee on PAC, then we need to emphasize somebody who has possibly an audit review, an audit qualification, finance qualification. This will help the member of Parliament to critically look at the documents that will be presented to him. So to me, I believe it's important at the point of allocating committees, let's follow qualifications of members of Parliament. If we cannot, yes, somebody will argue that we have clerks that will do the actual work, but I believe even a member of Parliament, the political person, should also have qualifications relating to the committee he is allocated to. So that one will help us to improve on our oversight role that we do through committees. I also want to emphasize that the best way to improve on our oversight roles is, of course, citizens' involvement. Communication between Parliament and the end users of these government projects. I believe that if we put legislative laws or laws that will emphasize communication of projects in every region, for example, in Uganda we deal with districts. I believe that if we are to have a road project in a district, let all the leadership in the district be in the know of how the procurement was done, the project expectations, timelines. Then it will help the leadership, the local leadership, that's, for example, to know. That's number one. Number two, even the communities can help us. We have cases in Uganda where you find that a road project is commissioned, but one of the biggest problems the project implementers or the contractors have is even communities stealing fuel, or even contractors staff stealing fuel from the project. At the end of the day, of course, the cost will go to government. So in my view, if the communities are involved or they are sensitized about these projects, it will also help us in implementing, in doing our roles as members of Parliament, or making our role of oversight easier. Because when I go for a site visit to know how the project is progressing, then I will have enough information from the communities. So I believe that citizen involvement is also a critical point that we need to look at in retooling our oversight roles. Then last, of course, which you mentioned, Honorable Chair and Right Honorable Speaker, was about, of course, enabling laws. We need to review our laws to make sure they are actually serving the purpose that we are set out to do in terms of oversight. Then we need to have, for example, what I mentioned on the timelines, we need to emphasize that. If there's an audit report that has come out, if there's an audit commission that has been put up, we need timelines to know what has been done. Those laws are also very important. Right Honourable Speaker, that's my take on the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Some very interesting points there. ICT has a role to play in improving oversight, which I agree with you. The question is that is it a silver bullet? Does it cure all other? I mean, is it enough? But like you've rightly pointed out, there are other things that can be done, and like putting round pegs in round holes in terms of committee service. And you also have talked about introducing another layer of oversight, more or less, which is the citizens' oversight, so to speak. So that we should communicate with the citizens, let them know. In Nigeria, we say we carry them along. That's the balance, political balance, so they can know what we're doing, and they can, in short, be your eye in the community and make your oversight a lot easier. These are very interesting ideas that we can go away with. I don't know if there is anybody else that. Yes, sir, second row. Yes.
Thank you, Program Director, Honorable Speaker. I'm from South Africa, the Speaker for Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I just want to start my contribution by going back to basics. What is the role of Parliament? Why do we exist? And I think when that is mastered, Program Director, the rest becomes peripheral, because then we'll remain glued to our core mandate, and that is of lawmaking, oversight over the executive, and public participation. And public participation is a very crucial instrument, and essentially one that which at times we don't pay much attention, and that is primarily because each country differs on its populace and the makeup, and the fact that communities are not homogeneous. So one of the things that I think we ought to be doing is to invest in the area of how the message gets to land in communities. How do you simplify and interpret in order for the stakeholders broadly, whether they are poor, whether they are uneducated, whether they are rich and well-educated? What kind of language in the messaging that as Parliament we're able to communicate with in order for the role of Parliament to be felt by communities? I think the impact, that is what I'm talking about. How impactful is our public participation? If we were to measure it out of 10, would we say, now I'm talking about South Africa in this case, would I say that is it 8 out of 10, is it 6 out of 10, is it? So those are the kind of things that I think we need to look at. And I think as South Africa, there are some measures that have been put in place to look at sharpening the tool of oversight holistically across the country, using the national parliament to implement that instrument. On the question of capacity building, we've got to invest in this one. I know that many countries, they do not put a requirement as an education that if you want to become a member of parliament, you need to have a degree, you need to have masters, you need to have, no, there's no requirement in many countries. The requirement is that you must be of an adult voting age, you must be a citizen, and so forth and so forth. But imagine you have an executive that is not only bringing the skill set, because many a times executive members, they tend to come with excessive knowledge in the particular area where they are deployed in some cases, but they've got technocrats. Imagine all the technocrats coming to present to Parliament, working with the administration to meet members of Parliament who have no clue of what is being discussed. So the response then is, what are we doing to capacitate? In South Africa, we've created mechanisms to send members to school, university. They choose where they want to go. We're partnering with universities. We also have an institution that is established by the government itself to ensure that the bureaucrats and members of parliament are schooled, but also to understand the job at hand beyond just the qualification. Now, the best way to deal with these issues is to be practical as best as possible, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker. And to thank, obviously, the presiding, the mover and the seconder on the, I think, a very extensive presentation, both by Rwanda and, of course, by Cameroon. I think it did provide the basis as a baseline for this conversation to take place. Lastly, on the point at hand, Program Director, Honorable Chair, is that we need to look carefully at who works for Parliament. Who really gets to work for Parliament? Is it on the basis that I know you, you're my friend, you're my cousin? How do we get to employ people in Parliament? Because we depend on the research capacity, we depend on the skill set of the officials who work for Parliament. That means meritocracy must define who works for Parliament, so that the members are supported and that there's research capacity to support the work of the honorable members in Parliament. I will stop there for now, Honorable Chairperson, and say that it's an important subject. It worries me because I sometimes look at how many members were present as we discuss here now. And this is why we exist, by the way. Parliament exists because of the three things that I've mentioned earlier. So I do hope that as we exchange this experience, but of course the study tours will be taken out of this instead of going to Europe and other parts of the world. But we come to Africa, we share experience among ourselves as Africans, not only in this platform, but take it beyond. I had officials from your beautiful country of Nigeria, Program the Honorable Chair, who came to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament and to the National Parliament of South Africa. They were studying in UCT to get more training. So I'm saying, therefore, I like the fact that what we're talking about, I could see in practice, where we can share experience among ourselves as African people. And they went to study and they learned some of the experiences to share with the respective parliaments whilst they enjoy their studying experience in UCT. So thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, South Africa. You touched on some significant areas, and you said we needed to understand the role of Parliament, and everything else will be peripheral. Just first of all, get the basics right. And what were the basics in your opinion? And you talked about public participation, communicating with the masses, which is in line with Uganda's partnership to the retooling our oversight functions, almost the same thing. You talked about capacity building, which I would want us to also think about seriously as we deliberate on this issue, because it's something I have found, and I'm totally, in agreement with you. How do we build capacity? How do we train our members in terms of oversight? I've always said that, I don't know about, in most countries that I know, the Constitution, unlike the executive, provides no term limit for legislators. And the question I always ask is, why is that? And there's a reason for that. We always like to compare some of our legislators to advanced democracies like the US and all of that. But then people forget that in the US, you have legislators who have been there for years, and the reason why they're there, and them being there for years, it allows them to gain the requisite knowledge, the experience, and all of that. So even when your technocrats come from the executive, like you rightly said, these are men who are men and women, legislators who are so conversant with the issues, who know the ropes and understand the system, that it's going to be more difficult to try and bamboozle your way through than somebody who's coming in fresh. And so these are the reasons why I believe that there was no term limit, as opposed to and so we should begin to build capacity and train our people. And then again, like you rightly said, who are your aides? Who are your consultants? Because you can't know it all. If I'm oversighting the aviation industry, for instance, or the aviation sector in my country, I don't know anything about aviation, but I will rely on my aides and my consultants to give me the necessary information that I will require. And that's why when you look at advanced democracies and you see aides, even in at a public hearing or an investigative hearing, they don't know everything, but it's their aides that pass this information to them. Sometimes you find clerks of the Supreme Court in America serving as legislative aides and consultants to congressmen. But then the question then zeroes again to the independence of the legislature in terms of financial independence. Does the parliament have the capacity to pay these consultants? Does the parliament have the capacity to pay people from Harvard or the likes in our own country, consultants? So that's where the problem is. So it's a very knotty issue that we need to begin to peel and unravel. But we have to address those fundamentals. Who are the people that help you in your work? Yes, we always bring in politicians who have assisted us, who don't have any idea of what you're doing. So that affects your work, your oversight function very greatly. You have to be able to ask the right questions, but for you to ask the right questions, you have to have the knowledge, whether it's technical or not, of what you're asking. So thank you very much for that contribution. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable members. Thank you for the slot. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about retooling Parliament. That means we previously tooled them before. We are making them regain what they had before. We are refreshing them. And how do we do it? We are making them more confident on what they are doing. We are saying to them, during your presentations, make sure there is ability. On whatever you are doing, there is participatory democracy. There is responsiveness in what you are doing. At least that's what we should expect. Over lunchtime, I shared at the table with Honorable Speaker for Sierra Leone. He's presiding over a parliament with 58 members of the opposition, 58 members of the ruling party. I imagine the continuous headache he has. That's when and where we expect consensus. We expect men and women in that parliament to be oriented on what they are doing. Over and above, we expect them to be equitable on their presentations. Retooling means retooling yields good governance. And good governance ensures economic growth, as well as the eradication of poverty and hunger. And that ensures sustainable developments. At Botswana, we have introduced something called community scorecard. We are taking Parliament to the people. We are saying, you, the people of Botswana, behind us as your legislators, we want you to tell us whether for or against, whether we are doing the right thing or not. If at all we are not doing the right thing, how do you expect us to do? And what do you expect us to do? The services that we tend to the people, is it the right way? This is what we are doing in Botswana. And like I said this morning, when I had an opportunity to sit where we are, where you are sitting, Mr. Speaker, it's for us to tap from each other, so that when I get back to Parliament of Botswana, how will I do away with the radicalism that some of them at times tend to yield? I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very quick and short and straight to the point. Reminding us, for those of us who do not know the effect of effective, the results of effective oversight is good governance, economic growth, sustainable development, and again reaching out to the people, oriented to advise us on where if we're on the straight and narrow or where we're deviating. Thank you so much, son. I appreciate that. Anybody else, please? Yes, gentleman at the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alberto Nikis, member of the Parliament in Mozambique. First, I would like to congratulate the mover and the seconder for this brilliant presentation. With the permission of the chairperson of this topic, I would like also to thank all for this great and special opportunity to be in this 17th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Africa region. In the same alignment, please accept the compliments of the people of Mozambique and thanks you, Rwanda, to host this conference and the hospitality since we arrived here. Thank you, Rwanda. Please applaud for Rwanda. In the regards of the topic in debate, I just want to say that Mozambique is retooling of the parliament, and is also a continuous process, and the key is to observe the constitution. We also facing the issues of budget and progressive consolidation of our democracy is also part of our challenges, but all is being done to overcome this situation. To end my interview, I would like also to ask for the countries present here if they can share their experience also in terms if we have a situation where the supervisor is given condition by the inspected. So how we can deal with this kind of situation in order to retool our parliaments. Pay your kind attention, receive my all gratitude. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question or the pose where you supervise is given condition. Can you explain? I didn't hear that properly.
Yes, it's not our exactly fact, but we have a situation, for example, in not exactly in parliament situations, but where you have the inspected, the supervisor is given condition by the inspected. So if this situation are happening in some parliaments or not.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I even mentioned that earlier, and I think Uganda also raised this almost the same pose, that where your oversight is being a challenge, or you're being given conditions by the executive. I think if anybody has, what do you do in those conditions? If anybody has an answer to that. Okay, so I think we're about to round up. Yes, the member on the second row. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair of the session, our Honorable Speaker. Let me also join all members who applauded both the mover and the seconder on what I view as a very important topic of retooling. It answers what I was taught at a very young age. You know, there was a question at some stage while at college whether a child is born with knowledge or a child come on earth as a blank object. Because if you say retooling, it means already, as in our culture generally as African people, we are people that are accountable. There's oversight starting from home, because you don't leave home without telling your parents where you are going to, or also when you are coming back, but also even those that are in matrimonial relationships, whether it's the husband or wife. So it means you are able to do that oversight. Now, how do you retool? The ball game lies with both the Constitution as well as the standing orders, as the two honorable members have already alluded to. We have different tools that we use. For example, in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, we also have what is called the FIS, which is the Focus Intervention Study, where after a member of the Executive Council might have come to present how they have spent a month that has been appropriated for a particular program or project. The members of that particular committee will go oversight just to check how that has been implemented. But we also provide a process where on a day where there will be questions where members will ask questions to members of the Executive Council, be it the Premier in our case, but also even at National Parliament, questions, motions and so forth, on the general work of their departments and the work that they do. So that also becomes a tool for oversight and accountability. But also remember, there's a media which might not be a rule within our rules, but as part of democratic principles, to know that the media plays an important role. So now if as a member that you want to retool yourself, want to reskill yourself, but also be committed, what we need to do is to also follow up in terms of what is in the media. I know that at times media can sensitize issues, but it will serve you a purpose as a member, just to follow up and actually ensure that that matter is accounted for properly. I think on other issues, Chair, I'm not going to repeat because more or less it's the same. We might be using different terminologies to come up at one issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution, and thank you for reminding us of our own traditions in Africa. They say charity begins at home, and whether you are born with knowledge or whether you acquire knowledge. Very incisive indeed. And your mention of question time as an innovation, exactly what I think you did say that you have that in Cameroon, and I think it's something we should all look at. And I think this brings us to, I'm not sure because we're working with time now. Do we still have more time? I don't know who's keeping time, but I think, are we done? Who? I just want to know if we're within. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, Chairman, my name is Senator Abba Moro, Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ordinarily at this meeting, I was expected to represent the Deputy Senate President
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I just want to make a little intervention on my observations since I've been here since yesterday. That one of the exciting topics that I actually looked up to this moment had this retooling of Parliament for effective and efficient oversight. And I want to say that since its inception, I think this association has done a lot in terms of stabilizing and, of course, finding common grounds for a common practice by African parliaments. And I think it's very, very important because our parliaments are very nascent, and as a result of that, I want to think that what we started with definitely can become obsolete. And given the dynamism of our system and the society in which we live, I want to think that the more time we devote to rearranging ourselves for better performance and more effective performance, the better. Very many countries definitely have very unique experiences. In Nigeria, for instance, I can say that we have very many institutions that guide to promote good governance at that level of parliament. We have in Nigeria, for instance, the Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. We have the National Assembly Service Commission. We have the Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies. All these institutions provide knowledge for effective parliamentary practice. But having said that, I want to say that we still have problems because within the systems and our practices, we have intervening variables that make the amendment of our country's constitutions to empower the parliament to perform its duties very effectively an imperative. We have generally in Africa the problem of corruption, no doubt about it, and given the fragility of the practice of democracy in Africa, I think the time also becomes necessary for us to strengthen the parliament by making concrete legal provisions for the empowerment of the parliament. Partisanship is a very serious issue when it comes to parliamentary practices, and sometimes we indulge ourselves so much to the level of partisanship that we do not take obvious directions on what to do because of the party that we belong to. So I think that while we may depend on very formal instruments for effectively performing our duties, I think it becomes very instructive at this level that we should try at one point or the other to amend our constitutional instruments in our various countries to empower parliaments. But having said that, let me say that the establishment of this platform that is intended to evolve an enduring democracy and practice and common practice among African countries certainly is a welcome development. So as we evolve and graduate, I think we'll be able to be in a better position to perform and establish common practices in Africa that will enthrone and deepen democracy. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Abba, for that, for sharing the Nigerian experience. And I will take off from where you left when I round up. One Senator Abba did not tell us was that he has been on both sides. He was with the executive, and now he's with us. So we'll figure out which way you swing at the end of the day. But thank you so much for those very incisive comments. And I quite agree with you that there must be some takeaways almost codified before we leave here today. Otherwise, it would have been an exercise in futility. But I'll touch on that when we round up. So I'll just, I think, at this point, give the mover and the second a couple of minutes just to round up. Rwanda.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speakers and the presiding officers. I wish to thank all the contributors to this topic because your contributions have raised critical issues and provided some insights on what we need to do on this topic. And without going through what each and everyone said, I just wanted to register that I thank you all for the contribution you made. The issues you raised are very pertinent, and I think all of us are going to continue to think about them and see how they can integrate them in their systems. When you were making your contributions, there are I was like ticking some of the things that are not issues here in Rwanda, and some that maybe we need to think about, and I believe that you did the same too. There is someone who talked about the recommendations, the audit recommendations, whether if they are not fully implemented, what do you do? Whether they are advisory or compulsory. I think this is for each and every country to look at it and see how they do things. But for that one, maybe I thought in our case it's not an issue, because we have different ways of following up to make sure that all the recommendations that are given by Auditor General and the Parliament, when we scrutinize the Auditor General reports, they get implemented. If they are not implemented, then we have other oversight mechanisms that we are using to make sure that we are getting to the point. So that's not an issue in our case, but if it is an issue in any country, then what I can say is that retooling Parliament is a continuous process. So we need to keep asking ourselves, how can we do what we are doing better? What are challenges do we have, and how can we address them? And I think when you are intervening, everyone could think about this and that interventions and see if that is a challenge in their case, and if it is a challenge, then how can they address that? And another thing that probably I wish to recommend is the rule of law, which we all know. If we have rules and procedures of carrying out government oversight, then it's upon us to make sure that we are adhering to the rules, to the rules and the procedures. And if we face challenges in the process of implementing that, then I believe that every country has the way of dealing with that in their own ways again. But as we are parliamentarians, definitely we should not say that we have issues with making sure that the rule of law prevail. I also wish to concur with the one honorable member who mentioned the use of ICT as an efficient way of improving oversight. I think we all agree that in this era of technology, it's going to be hard for countries maybe to continue to do things the way they are used to be. We have to make sure that each and everything that you're doing is done in online. It is done using technology, so that we leverage on that and we accelerate the process of parliamentary oversight. In our case, I think this is a commitment that the government made, and we actually in the process of making sure that all services that we provide are provided online. I think we got a commitment that by 2024, all services that citizens of Rwanda would wish to get, they should be online. And we have put online a good number of services. We have a window that is called Irembo, and for almost all services that the citizens of Rwanda want to get, they have to use Irembo. We are not yet there. As I said, our target is by 2024, but we are doing each and everything possible to make sure that we get there. As you said, Honorable Member, yes, when we get there, things will be easier, but definitely the role of the Auditor General will remain there, because even if things are online, but still they need to be audited and see where they do comply with the laws. And lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, I also wish to comment on the issue of citizens' involvement. Citizen involvement is very pertinent in the process of parliamentary oversight, because everything we are doing it for the citizen, for the public. So we need to get their contribution, we need to get their feedback. But in my presentation, I think because of time, I didn't get enough time to go into details of things that I mentioned. But one of the institutions and commissions that serve as arms of the Parliament in terms of oversight is Rwanda Governance Board. Rwanda Governance Board, in what they do conduct surveys annually, what we call citizen scorecard and the governance scorecard. In this citizen report card, actually on annual basis, this survey, citizens give feedback on the services that they get. One of the areas that they evaluate is the Parliament itself. How do they see Parliament? Is the Parliament really delivering to their expectations, or it is not delivering to their expectations? They do so to other institutions, to other services that they get. And definitely when the report comes to the Parliament, what we normally do in the analysis is to look at the feedback of the citizens, and then we do the needful. If there is a services that they think is not being delivered to their expectations, then we do our oversight role and make sure that they upgrade and get to the expectations of the citizens. Right Honorable Speaker, maybe allow me to end here and thank each and every one of you for participation, for contribution. And we take this as something that is not like finished. It's not a finished. Actually, it is a starting point. We need to keep assessing and reassessing ourselves to make sure that we get to parliamentary oversight systems that are really answering to what the citizens want, that are really delivering to democratic and governance values and the principles of which Commonwealth is committed to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Emma. I'll now call on the seconder of the motion, Honorable Lawrence Lawson from Cameroon.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and Chair. I think I just want to, first of all, thank the other colleagues who have also made some interventions about this issue of retooling and oversight of parliaments. You see, the issue here is our various governments have different systems of operation, and they can never be the same. They can never be the same. There are some of us who are ruled by a presidential system of government. Thereby, the parliament will not have the strength to do the things they are supposed to do. There are others where they are being ruled by a parliamentary system of government, where the parliament now has a lot of power to control government action. So it depends on the state of the country and the system of their constitutional arrangement. But that said, I could not do that, Mr. Chair, in our first district. In my country, before 2007, it was very difficult for a member of parliament to talk to a government official, a minister in government, or a general manager. But after 2007, the laws that have been passed in parliament and the other bodies that have been created to help, you know, one of the most important aspects is to fight corruption. Corruption is at the basis of corruption is one of the things that killed every government. And as parliamentarians in my country, you cannot work as a member of parliament. Before 2007 or so, you could be a minister and you still be a member of parliament, or a director general, or a paysayer, that's head of a corporation. But today, when you are MP, you are just an MP. So that you could be able to, when you want to challenge the government, you can be able to do that rightly without favor. But before, with the attachments that were given to MPs, we were forced to be corrupt. Because when you see when you appointed a minister or you're a PCR somewhere, apart from your parliamentary salary, you have other checks, you have other bottlenecks that you collect from behind. You cannot challenge the government. But today we are surviving based on what they give us as our parliamentary support. So it is difficult for you to be corrupt, and then you are out to make sure that you forcefully carry out what the functions you are supposed to carry as a member of parliament. Mr. Chair, I want to sincerely thank the people of Rwanda through the speaker for the warm reception. As a country that is supposed to host next Cameroon, Madam Speaker, you have given me a very, very huge challenge. As you see me here like this, I'm sick. I already have malaria in me. Serious one that I'm taking back to Cameroon. Because the hospitality of the Rwandans to us is something that I should be thinking what will happen in Cameroon in 2023. But I want to thank you all my brothers and sisters. I want to thank you all my brothers and sisters. And I'm saying that despite the fact that our governments will never allow us to do complete control, we should continue to press as MPs in our various legislation to make sure that we could be able to control government action to assist the people who vote us into office. Because the role of a member of parliament is to make sure that those who elected you in office are well represented by the laws the executive is passing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That brings us to a close. But let me just quickly thank everyone, all the participants, my colleagues that are here today. Thank the mover and the seconder of the motion. And more importantly, like everybody else has done, it's worth repeating, thank Rwanda and Speaker Donato Mukabalisa for the unprecedented hospitality and warmth they have showed to all of us that came from far and near. This has been a very interesting topic, a very important one at that. And I want to hope that a lot has been said, but that those things are reduced to actionable plans. And we don't just, that we haven't just sat here to talk the talk, but to also walk the talk. And I would be hoping that there will be the committee set up, or those who are in charge will, the secretariat will codify this to some kind of uniform code of operation that can be domiciled or domesticated, in our various countries, for as long as they don't conflict with our laws. All we're here to do is to enhance our capacity and capabilities as parliamentarians. And we're borrowed from each other ideas, and there's so many things that are uniform from what I've heard in terms of implementation and some other things that are uniform across board to all African countries. And if we can reduce this to writing and have a uniform rule book that covers, that guides us, that are not inconsistent with our laid down rules in our various countries, I think that would go a long way in making this a successful session and a successful conference. So I want to thank you all once again, and look forward to more robust debate on these and other issues. Thank you very much. Thank you.